All right, folks. I think we're live on YouTube, but as always, I'm gonna wait. We're gonna wait for your confirmation. So please let us know in chat if you can hear us, see us clearly, if the AV is clear, and then we'll get started. I think I can see it on my screen, so it should be okay. Awesome. Thank you, Sharath. All right, people. Thanks for confirming. Let's get started. I'm sure all of us have had a hectic day, and especially you folks with the grueling 3-hour exam and the travel to God-forsaken locations that XAT gives us every year. So without any further ado, let's get started. So we're here for a very quick discussion about XAT 25. So this is like a XAT 25 post-exam analysis. We're going to make it super quick, right? So that you guys can go back and rest or watch Netflix, and we can go back and do that as well before we start our Monday tomorrow. Okay. All right, people. So I hope, first of all, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Jatin. I'm the head of VRC and student care at 2IIM. And with me, we have Venkateshwaran, who goes by Vengi. Vengi is a DLR and quant, especially a quant, both quant and DLR expert at 2IIM. So he not only teaches those subjects, but he also heads our content development efforts at 2IIM. Okay, awesome. So, all right, people. So first of all, hopefully, I hope XAT went well for you, right? And again, we don't know yet. I think in a few days we'll have the answer key, so we know what's going to happen. But fingers crossed. I hope it went well for you, and all the hard work that you've put in. I hope that bears fruit and you get good results. Okay, that's it. Let's get started. So how we're going to do this is we will talk about the individual sections first. Okay, I'll talk about VLR and BDM. So both of us attempted the exam today. I look at VLR and BDM, so I'll talk about that, and then Vengi will talk about QADI. Okay, so just very quickly, I'll give you a quick summary of what I thought VLR was. Take our comments with a big pinch of salt because these are initial impressions. Okay, so we are as kind of green as you folks. We've also just given the exam, so these are very initial impressions. We'll have a better idea once the answer key is out, which is expected this week. Okay, anyway, let's talk about VLR. Now, see, this is what I think about VLR. If I compare this with XAT 24, which was last year, right? I personally think VLR was a notch above, okay, in terms of complexity, right? And I'll go into the details of it, the question breakdown stuff. But overall, I think it was a notch above, not way different or way higher in terms of complexity, but a notch above in complexity as compared to XAT 24. And I'll come down to cutoffs as well. I know you're very eager to know that. But let's talk about VLR a little bit. So there were 4 passages. Okay. 2, I think, were moderate to difficult. So there was a passage about rodents, humans, and groups, right? Kinship and biological kinship as well, versus cultural grouping. So that one I thought was moderate to difficult. And then we had a passage around greedy work and gender disparity in terms of income inequalities. That I thought was moderate to difficult as well. Now, remember, XAT passages are always dense. So I'm saying this by XAT standards, right? The VLR level is always high, but by XAT standards, these 2 were moderate to difficult. The other 2 were on the difficult side. So there was one philosophical passage, and I think there was one passage about humor. Those 2, in terms of the passage content, were definitely on the difficult side. So I would say 2 moderate to difficult, 2 difficult. Okay. There were 2 grammar questions, which were moderate. Last year, we had tricky grammar questions. This year, if you paid attention and sort of, evaluated the options carefully, you could have gotten that right. So I would say those were moderate. The vocab question was also moderate. Last year, we had a difficult one. There was only one vocab question this year because, interestingly, what they did was they replaced it with a picture, right? And I'm sure that you would have also been taken aback by that picture, that cartoon picture that they gave in the question. That cartoon picture question was actually quite difficult, okay? But they replaced one vocab question with that cartoon question. There were 2 poem questions, which I thought were difficult. 2 PJs were moderate to difficult. And there were about 6 CR questions, which, by CAT standards, I think 3 were moderate to difficult and 3 were difficult, right? Which is the usual. That happened last year as well, okay? Overall, as I said, VLR, I think it was a notch above XAT 24. Okay, perfect. Now VLR is done. That's the overall sort of analysis of VLR. We'll come down to cutoffs later, or actually I can talk about cutoffs right now itself. Last year, the VLR sectional cutoff was 9 marks, and this is at the 85th percentile. Okay, remember XAT has different percentile cutoffs for engineers, non-engineers, HRM, BM, all of that. So I'm taking 85th percentile. Last year, 85th percentile was at 9 marks sectional for VLR. This year, I'm thinking, again, very initial impressions, it might come down to 7.5 to 8. Okay, that is my initial impression. So take it with a pinch of salt. Again, last year, 9 VLR sectional cutoff at 85th percentile. I'm thinking this year it should go down to 7.5 to 8. Okay, so that's VLR. Okay, we'll answer your questions as well. I'll just finish the discussion and then we'll come down to your questions. So that's VLR. If you have any questions about VLR, let us know in chat. We're not going to discuss individual questions. Okay, when we have the answer key, we'll release all the video solutions properly. Today, we're not discussing any questions, but any other questions, let me know. Now let's come down to business decision making. Right? That's always an interesting section. BDM this year was very lengthy. Very, very lengthy. And I'm sure you felt that as well. I spoke to a few students after the exam, and they all kind of like echoed the same sentiment. Extremely lengthy. I thought some of the sets looked like actual RCs, right? Which is hilarious because it was a lot of reading. You know, you have like BDM, which was so much of reading, and then VLR is obviously a lot of reading. So a lot of reading in that 2 hours, 50 minutes, right? So BDM was definitely lengthy. But in terms of questions, it was more manageable than last year. It's never easy. BDM is never easy. But the complexity level of questions was only a notch lower than last year. Now, again, the sets were lengthy, so that can get compensated. But I still think overall BDM this year, as compared to XAT 24, was a notch lower in terms of complexity. So if the VLR was higher, BDM was 1 notch lower. Okay. Now, in terms of BDM, right, interestingly, there was only one combination question. Now, combination questions are very difficult, right? That's a bane of our existence because it's very difficult to figure out combinations. Only one combination question this time, which was a relief. And yeah, questions I thought were more manageable than before. So BDM cutoff, if you talk about, again, 85th percentile, remember, I'm only talking about 85th. Last year, 85th was at 8.75. This year, I think it will go to 9 to 9.25. Okay, it might go up a little bit because the overall complexity was a little lower. All right, perfect. So yeah, that's on BDM. Some very interesting questions there. Again, when the answer key comes out, we'll release video solutions. But I'll hand it over to Vengi now, and Vengi will talk about Q idea, and then we'll talk about the overall complexity. Go for it, Vengi.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, people. Good evening, all of you. So hope you had a nice day with XAT. So I just wanted to give a rough split up of like the questions that we saw under Q&A section. So Q&A, as you all know, we had totally 28 questions. So 28 questions, we know that. And I also wanted to give the split up. And in parallel, I just wanted to give a slight idea of the complexity of the questions also. So geometry took a huge part actually. So almost like out of the 28 questions, 7 questions we had from geometry itself. So geometry, coordinate geometry, mensuration, all these put together, we had 7 questions. So 1/4 of the questions, geometry took its share. So 2 of them from coordinate geometry. So one of them was very easy, straight away. The other one was slightly tougher. We need to be a little patient to solve the question and get the answer. Next is percentage, profit and loss area. We had 1 question from there. So percentage is 1 question, straightforward, simple question. We can easily attack the question. Such a question we had. Then LQE, linear quadratic equations. We got 2 questions where one of them was from probability. So quadratic equations, you solve it. And finally, the question will ask for probability. We need to solve and get the answer. So at least I struggled there for the question to solve the problem. So I felt it like it was time consuming for me. So, but really a nice question. So we need to be putting some time to invest some time to get the answer. Nice, fun to solve that question. And then we had ratio, averages. We had 2 questions from there. They were again straightforward, not much tougher. Then numbers, we had 2 questions. Exponents and logs, we had 2 questions. So these are from word problems. So word problems, under word problems, we got 16 questions totally. And then last 12 questions we got from DI. So DI occupied 4 sets. So last year we had DI 5 sets, but they were random. So 2 questions from one set, 3 questions from other set. So 2-3 combinations. We had that in last time we had that way. So we totally had 13 questions there. in DA, data interpretation. Under that part, we had 13 questions, 5 sets came, but here, this XAT, we had 4 sets, each with exactly 3 questions. So totally 12 questions. So 2 of them were, they were easy. They were much comfortable for the doers. So like 2 of them came from table format. So we had 2 table format. We construct tables and then do it. One of them, we had a table straight away. The table is given. So that talks about like the reviewers. They are reviewing some 4 products, 4 reviewers, 4 products. So we had an incomplete table. So the data, whatever given, we need to be solving and getting the answer. So interesting. It was interesting. So that again, finds fun to solve. And the other question is a kind of logic also we have to be using. So 2 students, it's about 8 tests. 8 tests. So the marks, what they are scoring in the 8 tests. That way we had another table question. Again, you form a simple 2 by 8 table that will click and helps you to get the answer. That was again fun. And then one question we had from time, speed, distance. So one complete set. That was again fun, really nice. So a kind of geometry usage and more of time, speed, distance. So that way we had one beautiful set. I really enjoyed that set. So interesting to solve that. And one graph set that was again easy, but by the time I came to that question, personally, I felt much tired. So I was not able to fully concentrate on it, but it's again a good question. I heard like that also grabbed more people's attention. So it was good. And to give an overall thing, like QADA section was comparatively, the complexity was about the same. When compared to last year, it was the same. Making word problems slightly a level easier than previous year, and DA slightly tougher than previous year. So made overall, it got compensated. And what all the topics missing was time and work was missing. So time and work, we did not see any question there. So this is about an overall view of the QAD section, what we had.
Right. So Vegi, you said that the complexity was almost similar to last year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, folks, if you look at the numbers, right, again, 85th percentile, I'm talking about sectional cutoffs. We'll come down to overall cutoffs. 85th percentile for QADI last year was at 9 marks. This year also, since the complexity was similar, we can expect it to be around 9 marks. Okay. All right. So a number of you are asking ideal attempts and all of that. So see, we're giving you our sort of assessment of the cutoffs and the overall cutoffs as well. You guys can back calculate that later. I'll just quickly repeat before we go to overall VLR, the cutoff, sectional cutoff expected, estimated, very broad estimate right now, 7.5 to 8 at the 85th percentile for VLR, 7.5 to 8. BDM might be at 9 to 9.25 at the 85th percentile, and QADI will be around 9. Okay. Now, overall, we feel that the cutoffs, overall cutoff should be similar to 2024. Now, the 95th, 96th percentile. So again, overall also, you can get a call at 95th percentile. Sometimes it might be 96th, remember, depending on your category and the course that you've applied for. But 95, 96 percentile, you can get a call. Last year, it was around 36 to 37 marks. This year also, you can expect that to be around that range. Okay, because it will level out, right? VLR a little difficult, BDM a little easier, QADI the same. So there shouldn't be much difference in the overall cutoff. 95th, 96th percentile should be around 36 to 37 marks. Okay. All right. So yeah, so the very super quick discussion on this. If there are any questions, let us know. But I think, yeah, again, hopefully, XAT went well for you. Definitely relax now, unwind. You have a big PI personal interview season coming up as well. So it's done and dusted. The answer key will be out in a few days. So we'll probably do a session or we'll give you our assessment. We'll definitely release solution videos as well. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, put them in chat. You can also comment on the live session when it's uploaded and we'll get back to you. Okay, awesome. We'll wait for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, interestingly, some of the BDM sets, again, I was just reading the chat. Some of the BDM sets were very interesting. XLRI making digs at other colleges. That was hilarious. I'm sure whoever spotted that, you would have definitely had a nice laugh in the exam. They definitely took a dig at one of the premier colleges, but they also kind of did damage control in one of the questions. So that was quite interesting. The cartoon question I thought in VLR was a nice touch, although I found the question tricky. Okay. BDM sets, again, as I said, they were like mini RCs. But yeah, the questions were okay this time. The ambiguity for BDM seems to be going down with every passing year, which is a good thing, right? So that's always good. All right, all the BDM will end. Agreed, Lokesh. All of them will end. They all seemed like I think in all the questions you had to scroll right on the left hand side to see the set, and then on top of it, the questions had a lot of lot of detail itself, right? So overall, I think the word length was quite high for BDM questions. So I think reading fatigue is a real thing in XAT, right? I told my students as well, doing BDM and then VLR can be quite a lot of reading. So that is there. It's very reading heavy for sure. Awesome. All right, perfect, people. So if there are no more questions, we'll take your leave. Okay, a lot of facts, definitely. All the very best to you for the upcoming PI season. And as I said, if you have any more questions, the session will be immediately uploaded on YouTube. You can put it in comments and we'll get back to you. Once the answer key is out, we'll be able to give you better insights. Okay. All right. All right. That's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bengi.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. Bye.